Your value is not tied to a number on a scale. Let me repeat that. Your value as a human being is not tied to a number on a scale or any other external metric. Your value comes from within. It's in your heart. It's who and what you are on the inside. Good morning. Coach Kelly here with an encouraging word. And recently I was walking out of the gym one early morning after finishing my workout, and walking by my side was one of my very best clients, Wendy Lee Schneider, also known here at Lifetime North Dallas as Little Miss Sunshine. It's actually the title of a blog that I published last December, right before Christmas, as a tribute to her for the amazing progress that she made last year. She's also appointed herself as my official media manager as I'm just getting into creating educational videos. So this is going to be interesting. I have zero editing skills. She has some. So as I said, it's going to be interesting. But we're out the doors and walking to our cars, and she pretty much wears her feelings on her sleeves, and I could tell something was wrong because usually she's just brightening the room. And so I asked, "What's up?" And she paused for a moment, and then she replied, "I'm just a little bit bummed about where I am with my body, given the goal that we set back in January." So, and then I'm thinking, how do I respond to that? So I asked her, "Do you recall the struggle that we've gone through with your body since January?" And she said yes. So short answer, we set an aggressive goal in January, and about 10 days later, she broke her toe, which took weeks to recover from. And about the time that she gets over the toe break, she gets COVID, which took more weeks to recover from. So in all that period of time, she barely skipped a beat. She didn't miss any time for the toe. She only missed a few days for COVID. She just kept showing up. So I want to pause and wind back the tapes 1 year, give you just a little background about how she and I met in the first place, and then I'll come back to present and wrap this up. So April 2022, she goes to see her doctor for her annual checkup. She weighed in that day at 211. Now Wendy is very tall. When you're 5'6", 5'10" is very tall, but Wendy is very tall. But 211 at 5'10" is still heavier than what she needed to be, wanted to be, and definitely her doctor, she needed to lose some weight. So she left the appointment that day with some work to do. Now we met right after that. So I recognized her. I had seen her for a number of weeks in the gym because we trained at the same time in the morning, but shame on me, I'd never gone over to introduce myself. But I noticed the consistency that she was coming and how hard that she was working. So it was a Saturday morning. My standing 8 o'clock client was out. I had a 9. So I was walking the floor, cleaning up equipment, chatting with members. Wendy was doing legs, and I thought, this is a perfect opportunity for me to finally go and say hello. So I did. I introduced myself. We started talking. I asked her, what she was working on, her goals, and she told me she's trying to lose weight. And I said, well, I'm the main nutrition coach on our team. Would you be interested in sitting down and having me look at what you're doing with your food and let me see if there's an opportunity for me to add value? So she agreed. So we met the next week. It was very positive, and we agreed that day to start working together. Now, let me say, in the beginning, I was only helping with her nutrition. She was following an online trainer, and I didn't try to circumvent that relationship, so we get started. Month later, we're seeing positive changes in her body. I mean, her body composition is changing for the positive. However, she starts to develop elbow pain. It became so problematic that she was having a hard time getting through her workouts, especially her upper body workouts. And so I offered to build for her a brand new program, taking as much stress as possible off of her elbows. And it was just to see. So she agreed. We put that into play. And fortunately, within a few weeks, elbow pain's gone. So at that point, she's all in. She turned over her program design to me as well. We've never looked back. So remember, April 2022, 211. Fast forward to last December, early December, she breaks into the high 170s. She was so excited. I was so excited. The membership here was so excited. We are a close-knit little group here at North Dallas, and someone with her personality, and then you lose that much weight, it gets people's attention. And so it became very common for members to come up to her and compliment or just comment to her about how great she looked. I mean, she deserved it. She worked really hard. So right after that, I said, look, it's time for us to take a break. Not from you training, but from being on a diet. April to December is long enough for you to being on a diet. So for the rest of December, let's say midway through January, I want you to eat for maintenance, which that was on me to change her food. I just needed her emotional buy-in. But I want you to eat for maintenance because I want your mind and body, especially your mind, to rest from being on a diet. So she agreed. She trusted me at that point implicitly. So we moved forward through the holidays. Mid-January, I thought, it's time. So I introduced her to Hillary Knight. I found Hillary in one of my training books. Hillary is an Olympic level elite hockey star. She also happens to be 5'11". She's taller than Wendy. And in peak shape, she weighs about 172 pounds. So I found her in one of my training books. I looked her up online. There's oodles of pictures giving her fame and success. And so I shared those images with Wendy on my tablet at the gym. That was so exciting to her. Up until then, she had never had any type of a female role model. She was just trying to lose weight, but to see the images of Hillary, how great she looked, and there's athletic pictures and dress up pictures, all in between, that was so encouraging to her because again, she'd never had anyone to aspire to. So we set a goal to get to 170 pounds. We didn't set a body fat percentage goal. It's just let's get to 170 pounds and give her a chance to see how she felt about herself when she looked in the mirror. And I just thought 170 would be a really good number. So we moved forward. Literally about 10 days later, it was a Tuesday morning, January 24th, I'm out taking a walk. I take off 2 days during the week, one usually Tuesday, Wednesday from lifting, and then usually Saturdays. And weather permitting, I'll just take a walk around my neighborhood, think, pray, reflect. It was a little after 6, I get a text. It said, I dropped a 35-pound plate on my toe. I think it's broken. Should I try to finish the workout or should I go home? And I just thought, oh my God, only her. I said, go home, take care of yourself. It's not gonna hurt you to miss a half of a workout. And so she did. She was hurting. I checked on her later in the day. She was hurting. She showed up the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And that weekend she got a protective boot and started wearing that. She never missed a workout. So 10 days post. Now we had to modify her training from the get-go because she could put zero pressure on that toe, but she didn't skip. We made the best of it. About 10 days after the plate drop, she went to see her doctor to confirm whether it was broken or not. It was. He said, there's nothing I can do. It's just going to have to heal on its own. So for 5 weeks, 5 more weeks post-doctor appointment, so it was like a little over 6 weeks that she was, dealing with the toe situation. She had to wear that boot. I thought that was just going to wear her out, but she didn't miss a workout. So I still remember when she went to the doctor for that final checkup to hopefully get the green light to take off the boot, and she did. And she was so excited thinking about, I'm back to normal health. And then she gets COVID. Now, it wasn't that bad, and she only missed maybe a few days actual gym time, but it still took her a good 3 to 4 weeks to be back to full strength. Because it just took time. A lot of you watching this, have had COVID, and it can take some time to get back to normal strength. But she made the most of it. She just kept showing up. So I want to share one more quick story back from the toe broken period, and then I'll wrap this up. So one morning she was supposed to be doing a circuit of core exercises. So like a couple of core exercises, metabolic conditioning exercise, a couple more core exercises, metabolic conditioning exercise. And what I mean by that is metabolic conditioning, kettlebell swings, med-ball slams, battle ropes. It's hard little workout. Only problem was that morning that the battle ropes were missing. So just to give you some context, our gym is ginormous. It's like a small Walmart. We have 6 power racks set up on one side of the gym. There's usually a set of battle ropes anchored around one of those power racks. Well, for some reason that morning, it was missing. Now, I'm oblivious to this. I'm doing my thing. She's doing her thing. I didn't know. I caught the tail end of this and pieced together in hindsight what had happened. She looks all over the place. And when I say looks, I mean limps, because she couldn't walk right. She limps all over the place looking for the rope. She finally looked back in our Alpha Group Fitness Studio, which is on the opposite side of the gym from where the power racks are. Glass wall, glass door. She peeks inside. She sees the extra ropes. The instructor sees her. She sticks her head in the door. They know each other. And Wendy said, and so the instructor's like, come on, get him. So she limps over and grabs this heaping mass. If you've ever used battle ropes, they're huge, they're big and cumbersome and heavy, and that's without a broken toe. And she limps all the way back across the gym. And I caught the very end of this as she's actually anchoring it to one of the power racks. And then she proceeds to stretch those ropes out and then go through multiple rounds of the circuit that I built for her, kicking her butt. And in that moment, it left me kind of speechless because most people wouldn't have gone through that much trouble to work as hard as she was then working, much less with a broken toe. Most people would have dialed it in on the battle ropes, but not my Wendy. This may seem kind of cheesy, but it reminds me of the scene at the end of, I love the Christmas story, The Grinch That Stole Christmas. And at the very end, they said that the Grinch's heart grew, like 10 times that day? Well, my admiration for her in that moment multiplied many times for her grit, drive, and just sheer determination. I will not be denied. That's my Wendy. And so, back to the parking lot. So we're walking out to our cars, and I'm trying to think, what can I say to her to raise her spirits in the moment? Because what had happened that morning is she stepped on the scale, and it didn't say 170. So set that to the side. So there's two things that I teach all of my clients, and this was going to be a refresher for her because we had talked about it before. And the first is to accept 100% responsibility for where you are in life. As I've had that principle drummed into my consciousness for over 30 years from two of my longtime mentors, Andy Andrews and the late, great Jim Rohn. But it's really simple. You are where you are in life because of choices and decisions that you've made. If there's any area of your life that you're not happy with, make different choices around that situation. I mean, it really can be that simple, because here's the catch. The moment you place blame or make excuses for some outside source for something that you're dealing with, you give away your power to create change for the positive in your life. I love this quote. So I've explained in essence what I just said to you for years as a fitness professional, but I found this quote, about a year ago. And it is, do not walk in your shadow. You're not a slave to your past. Didinsky. So, and it's true, you're not a slave to your past. Now, you can't change your past, but you're not a slave to your past. And if you want your tomorrows to be different, make new choices today. So, some people will say that, or some people will argue that, well, I didn't choose to have a given negative situation come into my life. And I would agree. I mean, I'm sure you didn't. I mean, who invites chaos, strife, and struggle into their life voluntarily? But the last time I checked, bad things happen to all of us. That is just life. And unfortunately, with some frequency, bad things happen. You always have a choice in how you respond. Wendy didn't mean to drop that 35-pound plate on her toe, but she did. She made the best of it. She didn't let it stop her, not much. She didn't mean to get sick with COVID, but she did. But she didn't let it stop her, at least, only really for a few days. She just kept showing up. So with regard to that principle number one, accepting responsibility, you gotta give her a gold star. She pretty well crushed that one. The second thing that I teach my clients is focus more on process goals versus outcome goals. So for Wendy, it was very simple. The outcome was 170. But the way to get there, I mean, there's no amount of hoping, praying, wishing, dreaming, doing backflips is going to get you to 170 pounds or whatever your goal might be. It's dialing back and focusing in on the daily, weekly processes. I call them big rock processes that you have absolute control over. That's where she need to put her energy in what I teach my clients. So for her, weight training 4 to 5 days a week, cardio 2 to 3 days a week, foam rolling, mobility work, recovery activity, sprinkled in through the week. At some point on the weekend, planning, what am I going to eat for the next week? Going to the grocery store, coming back and doing meal prep. And then I'm going to add in actually eating your meal prep. That is for a couple of my clients that, let's just say that on occasion, they have gone through the discipline process of doing their meal prep only to go off the rails midweek and end up at McDonald's or worse. So eat your meal prep. Drinking enough water every day, staying hydrated, getting enough sleep at night, managing stress, managing your overall recovery. These are the big rock processes that Wendy had control over. And if you look at her execution on those from January to May, she crushed it. I mean, almost without deviation, she crushed it. So if you consider an old-fashioned balance, I think it's called an apothecary scale, and you said all the positive that she did on one side, I mean, that scale is tipped to the desk because we haven't put anything over here yet. So really, with the outcome that she was seeking, the primary tool is the scale, and I'll get there in a moment. But whenever I'm working with clients, I never want the scale to be the only metric for their success. There needs to be more than that. And 3 at the bare minimum that I recommend to people is number 1, what does the mirror say? Because the mirror won't lie. Now you can lie to the mirror, but the mirror won't lie to you. What do your clothes say? How are your clothes fitting? Because your clothes will definitely not lie. And then how do you feel, both in the gym and outside of the gym? What's your performance? I mean, are we faster, stronger, better conditioned? How are we sleeping at night? What are our energy levels throughout the day? That's all valuable feedback. For the record, Wendy loved the way that she looked. Check her Instagram page because there's lots of pictures over that period of time. She loves the changes, or she loved the changes that she's seen in her body. She made progress. I mean, her body composition changed for the positive. Despite the toe and COVID, she was stronger and faster, better conditioned despite the toe and COVID. She truly felt good about herself. So if you take those three things and add that to our positive stack, there's only one dissenting piece of information left, and it's that stinking scale. So I tell everyone that the scale is a source of information. It's not good information, it's not bad information, it's just information. Now, if it's contrary to the goal that you're seeking, then you gotta tweak your processes. But it's certainly not a negative reflection on you as a human being, Wendy, or does it take away all the hard work that you've done, Wendy? So I painted that rather elaborate picture to her, that morning in the parking lot, what I just explained to you, and just to remind her, look at all the positive that you've done, and we only fell a little bit short. And that was enough to flip her perspective and make her feel a lot better about herself. So for you, regardless of what the outcome is that you're seeking, if it's a health and fitness goal, then your Big Rock process is probably going to be pretty similar to what Wendy's are. But regardless, identify the outcome, break it down to, I always say a handful is enough, to the handful of daily, weekly processes that you actually have control over. Identify them. You can go old school and put it pen, paper, journal, or some electronic means, but you got to capture this information, and then you got to track it. Daily's best, weekly at the very least, and then whatever your tool or tools of measurement is, at some point you got to measure. And with my weight loss clients, no more than no more than once a week, because anything more than that, you're just going to drive yourself nuts. But then at the very least 2 weeks. 2 weeks is long enough to see progress. So you got to track, and then compare that with, track your processes, look at your outcome, tweak your processes as needed. And if we repeat that little process over and over and over again, that little cycle over and over again, and persist without exception, you'll crush any goal that you go after, I promise. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, please reach out. I promise to reply. Have a great day. I look forward to sharing with you again soon.